The sun barely touches the peaks, and for a moment, the Alps seem to breathe. The air is pure, and the silence so vast that one feels as if the world ends here. But what if it isn't? What if beneath that eternal snow there is not only rock and ice, but memory? Since time immemorial, these mountains have been silent witnesses to everything humans have loved and feared. They have seen empires, gods, armies, and pilgrims pass through. Every layer of snow holds a story. Every crack in the ice whispers of the past. Because the Alps are more than mountains. They are Europe's oldest archives, guardians of what we forget. To understand what they hide, we must first understand what they are. For millions of years, invisible forces shaped the heart of the continent. The African and Eurasian plates collided with relentless slowness, raising what we now know as the Alps. A wall of stone and ice stretching over 1,200 kilometers, spanning 8 countries: France, Monaco, Italy, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Germany, Austria, and Slovenia. From the Mediterranean Sea to the Hungarian plains, this mountain range not only draws a physical map, but also a map of the European soul. The Alps are the continent's spine, the boundary between north and south, between the Latin and Germanic worlds, between the known and the untamable. For centuries, they were seen as an impossible frontier. Roman armies took decades to master them, and every step was a test of endurance. In 218 BCE, Hannibal defied the inconceivable, crossing these mountains with an army of over 40,000 men and 37 elephants. Many perished along the way, yet that feat left an indelible mark on European history and imagination. The Alps did more than divide empires, they also connected them. Through passes like Saint-Gothard, Great Saint Bernard, and Brenner, merchants, pilgrims, ideas, and languages flowed. In their valleys, the diversity that defines Europe today was born. Each isolated community developed its own dialect, rituals, architecture, and music. In a single valley, 3 languages could coexist. On one mountain, 2 religions. What dissolved in the plains was preserved here, like a treasure in a reliquary. But why would anyone choose to stay? Why inhabit the uninhabitable? Perhaps because the mountains offered something the world below could not. Freedom. Between cliffs and glaciers, alpine communities learned to live with both harshness and absolute beauty. They carved terraces where grass barely grew, built villages that seemed to hang from the void, and tamed danger itself. Living here meant understanding that survival was a form of faith. And so, between stone and snow, a unique humanity emerged, shaped by silence. A humanity that, isolated for centuries, preserved customs and beliefs that vanished elsewhere in Europe. In those valleys, songs still echo in dialects no book has recorded, and the elders continue to tell stories of spirits guarding the highest passes. Perhaps that is why, when we look at the Alps from afar, we feel more than admiration. We feel a call. They are not just mountains, they are thresholds. Among their peaks, the earth seems to brush the sky, and the visible world dissolves into the unknown. And it is precisely there, in that boundary where the human ends and mystery begins, that myths are born. Before the bells of monasteries echoed through the valleys, the Alps were considered the domain of the gods. The peaks were not mere geographical accidents, but natural temples, elevated above the earth to reach closer to the sky. For the Celts, The god Paninus personified the power of the mountains and protected those who ventured into their heights. It was said that his spirit dwelled in the glaciers and the steepest passes, and that his favor was necessary to survive storms and avalanches. The Romans, too, were not indifferent to this sacredness. On numerous summits, altars dedicated to Jupiter, protector of the skies and storms, were erected. Through recent archaeological findings, we know that in remote peaks, offerings of weapons, coins, and food were left, evidence of a cult that sought to control nature and appease its unpredictability. Every rock could be an altar, every cave a secret sanctuary, and every valley a pilgrimage path toward the divine. The rituals were no mere formalities. They involved sacrifices, high-altitude ceremonies, and dangerous journeys, a test of faith that only the bravest could undertake. These practices reveal how pre-Christian spirituality was deeply intertwined with the environment, transforming geography into a sacred map. When Christianity arrived, it did not destroy these places. It absorbed and transformed them. Monasteries like the Great Saint Bernard were built on ancient pagan worship sites, respecting the sacredness of the location and adapting it to the new faith. Peaks that had once been home to Paninus now hosted crosses, bells, and Christian pilgrims, yet the essence of reverence toward the heights remained intact. Even today, traces of these beliefs live on in alpine traditions. Local festivals that bless livestock, processions along ancient trails, and fire rituals marking seasonal changes are echoes of a past that refuses to disappear. On the summits, the human and the divine remain intertwined, and the mountains continue to serve as thresholds between the visible and the invisible. Walking these paths today, among chalets and tourists, is to traverse the same space where previous generations sought protection, divine favor, and a connection with the sacred. Pre-Christian history is not buried. It lies hidden beneath the snow, in the wind that whistles between the peaks, and in the echoes of ancient prayers that still seem to resonate in the rock. Because the Alps are more than geography. They are cathedrals open to the sky, where every stone remembers the gods who once walked these heights. Amid the endless whiteness of the alpine glaciers, time seems to stand still. Where the wind lashes and snow covers the passes, the ice keeps secrets that wait centuries to be revealed. The most famous discovery from this frozen archive came in 1991, when in the Similon Glacier, on the border between Austria and Italy, Ötzi the Iceman was found. He was approximately 5,300 years old, and his body, along with his clothing and tools, offered a unique window into the world of Copper Age alpine inhabitants. Ötzi is not merely a corpse. He is a silent witness, telling us about survival, diet, movement, and the everyday secrets of a long-lost era. But Ötzi is not unique. Each year, glacial retreat, accelerated by climate change, reveals weapons, wooden tools, clothing, footwear, and remnants of dwellings. Every object, carefully preserved by the ice, tells stories of people who walked these valleys before us, leaving clues about their daily life, rituals, and ingenuity. Some discoveries even reveal ancient passes, trade routes, and paths that have since disappeared beneath snow and rock. It is not only individuals that the ice reveals, but entire communities. Some alpine valleys and villages were buried by avalanches, abandoned by their inhabitants, and forgotten for centuries. The stones of walls, remains of roofs, and the routes connecting ghost villages emerge as glaciers recede, offering an unexpected map of settlements that once thrived under extreme conditions. In this way, the ice becomes an invisible archivist, preserving every detail, every mistake, every triumph. What today appears as a simple piece of wood or a copper tool is in reality a testimony to human resilience in the face of adversity. And as temperatures rise, the ice compels us to observe and reflect. What emerges is at once a revelation and a loss, a reminder that history is not always where we expect it, but hidden beneath layers of snow and time. Walking these glaciers today means traversing the frozen memories of entire generations, feeling that each step on the ice is also an encounter with echoes of the past. The Alps do more than protect geography. They protect the very memory of those who once called them home. Living in the Alps has always meant facing the unpredictable. The beauty of snow-covered valleys and endless peaks comes at an extreme cost. Winter can be deadly. Avalanches strike without warning, and some passes are nearly impossible. To survive, alpine communities developed extraordinary adaptations. Houses, built from stone and wood with steeply pitched roofs to prevent snow accumulation, resembled daring sculptures against gravity and cold. Barns were elevated, protected from avalanches and moisture, while the paths between villages became true tests of balance and endurance. Daily life followed a rhythm dictated by nature. Transhumance, moving livestock from high pastures in summer to warmer valleys in winter, was essential for survival. Animals were not only a source of food, but also an economic engine. Milk, cheese, wool, and meat were vital resources, while trade routes like St. Gotthard and Brenner connected these isolated territories with the rest of Europe, enabling the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. But the mountains do not forgive mistakes. Avalanches, rockfalls, storms, and prolonged winter isolation were constant threats. Historical records document daring rescues and tragedies that left entire villages marked by loss. Yet each generation found ways to adapt and endure, developing ingenuity and resilience that now seem legendary. Over time, what was once a territory of extreme survival transformed into a tourist paradise. Chalets that once protected against the cold are now rented for winter getaways. Trade paths are now traversed with skis and backpacks. And glaciers, once feared, have become scenes of admiration and adventure. Yet beneath this idyllic postcard remains the memory of what it cost to conquer these landscapes. Life in the Alps has always been a lesson in human limits and tenacity in the face of nature. Before we climb even higher into the realm of myths and legends that dwell on every summit, pause for a moment and feel what these stories hide beneath the snow. Every valley, every glacier, every chalet, and every forgotten pass speaks to us of lives, sacrifices, and secrets that time has sought to preserve. If these stories move you, if they awaken your curiosity about what the Alps silently hold, join us on this journey. Become part of this ongoing exploration and don't miss what is yet to be revealed. Because what comes next changes everything we thought we knew about these mountains. Among the peaks and valleys of the Alps, history was not always written on parchment or in official chronicles. Often, it was carved into the rock, whispered to the wind, or hidden in stories passed down orally. These are the alpine myths, tales that survived centuries of snow and oblivion, and today show us how human imagination can shape entire identities. One of the most fascinating is the dragon of the Alps, whose form changes depending on the region. In Switzerland, it is said to be a winged creature guarding treasures hidden in mountain caves. In Austria, the giant serpent devours reckless travelers who dare to cross dangerous passes, while in Italy, the dragon is said to guard sacred springs and hidden glaciers. Through these stories, communities learned to respect the mountain's power and to pass on lessons from generation to generation. Dragons were not the only figures inhabiting alpine imagination. Spirits of the peaks, such as the figure known in Germany and Austria as Die wilde Jagd, the wild hunt, were feared and revered presences that could take the reckless or protect those who showed respect. These narratives combined fear and veneration, reinforcing the idea that the mountain was a sacred space beyond the human. The spread of Christianity did not erase these legends, it transformed them. Figures like Saint Bernard of Monjou became symbols of protection and miracles. His famous dogs, now associated with alpine rescues, were immortalized in tales blending history and myth. The mountain remained dangerous, but now with divine guidance. At the same time, foundational heroes emerged, such as William Tell in Switzerland. His bow, his rebellion, and his courage not only told a story of justice and freedom, but became pillars of Swiss national identity. Through these legends, entire regions found symbols of unity and resistance, transforming local tales into anthems, emblems, and narratives that still define their culture today. Alpine myths were more than stories. They were tools of cohesion. From the most remote villages to the capitals of the cantons, these tales taught values, warned of dangers, and reinforced collective memory. Every mountain, cave, and valley had its own story, yet all shared a common purpose: to give meaning to geography, to time, and to identity. Walking through the Alps today is to traverse centuries of imagination and belief. The stones seem to whisper the names of dragons, heroes, and saints. The wind carries echoes of ancient processions and laughter celebrating impossible victories. These myths are not mere fantasies. They are the living memory of a people who found in the mountains their mirror, their warning, and their inspiration. Thus, each summit becomes a lesson carved in stone. Nations are not always built with treaties or armies. Sometimes they are forged in the stories we choose to tell, repeat, and preserve, at the intersection of history and imagination. Ascending the most remote peaks of the Alps is to enter a world where silence has shape and weight. There, the wind seems to speak, stones creak beneath your steps, and every echo is a reminder that we are alone, yet accompanied by centuries of history. To feel that silence is to understand that the mountain does not exist merely as a landscape. It exists as living memory, a witness to everything that has passed and to everything that fades away. For centuries, many sought a connection with the transcendent in these heights. Monasteries like the great Saint Bernard were built in inhospitable locations not only to watch over travelers and merchants, but to offer refuge to those seeking solitude and spiritual reflection. Hermits and mystics withdrew to caves and summits, living at the edge of survival, guided by the need to hear something deeper than everyday noise. Their stories, sometimes silent, still resonate in the stones and paths they left behind. Today, the paradox is clear. The Alps are filled with tourists, skiers, photographers and adventurers in search of the perfect postcard. Yet, despite the crowds, the mountains remain essentially solitary. The grandeur of height is not measured by the number of visitors, but by the intimate experience of the space. That moment when one feels small, vulnerable, and yet part of something eternal. Alpine silence speaks to us of permanence and fragility, of what has survived and what has been lost. Every monastery, every abandoned trail, every stone worn by centuries of wind is a reminder that what we preserve requires care, and what we leave behind may vanish without a trace. Walking in these heights is to understand that memory, like snow and ice, can melt and reveal secrets, but it can also conceal truths that only those brave enough to listen can perceive. In that silence, the Alps teach us something essential. Although everything changes, there are places that endure, and in their stillness, they hold the wisdom of what we are and what we have been. When the first light of dawn touches the snow-covered peaks, everything seems calm, yet in that stillness, time itself resonates. Every layer of snow, every crack in the rock, every hidden valley has witnessed lives, stories, and secrets that the world often forgets. The Alps remember what we leave behind, preserve what was lost, and guard what we have yet to understand. A solitary footprint on freshly fallen snow is a small reminder of our fleeting presence, while the stars rotating above the summits seem to repeat an ancestral pattern that transcends generations. Each sunrise simultaneously reveals what emerges and what remains hidden, as if the mountain itself whispers that its memory is infinite and patient. And if these mountains can remember, what else do other ranges hold? What secrets lie beneath the snow of the Andes, the Pyrenees, or the Caucasus? Entire worlds await discovery, stories that time has not yet revealed, mysteries that unfold slowly for those brave enough to look beyond the surface. For mountains do not exist only in the present. They connect the ancestral with our contemporary gaze. They wait, silent and eternal, to tell their stories when we are ready to listen. And as snow falls gently and light spreads across the peaks, it becomes clear that this is only the beginning.